Ever wonder why some of the most killer rock songs from the 80s just disappeared into thin air? You're probably thinking, what happened to those bands that should have been huge? Why didn't they get the recognition they deserved? And which songs am I missing out on that could blow my mind today? Here's the thing, the music industry in the 80s was brutal. And for every Def Leppard or Bon Jovi that made it big, there were dozens of incredible bands creating absolute masterpieces that got buried under corporate politics and bad timing. Today, I'm digging up 10 of the most criminally overlooked rock and hard rock anthems from the decade that defined the genre. Songs so good they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about 80s rock. 1. Kix, Don't Close Your Eyes. Let's kick this off with a band that should have owned the airwaves, but got lost in the shuffle of major label madness. Kix from Maryland crafted Don't Close Your Eyes in 1989, and it's everything a perfect rock ballad should be. Steve Whiteman's vocals soar over melodic guitar work that builds to an emotional crescendo most bands can only dream of achieving. The song hit number 11 on the charts, but by then, grunge was already knocking on rock's door, and record labels were shifting focus. Kix had the songwriting chops and the stage presence, but timing in the music business is everything, and theirs couldn't have been worse. 2. Babylon AD, Bang Go the Bells. Speaking of timing, Babylon AD released their debut album right as the 80s were breathing their last breath. Bang Go the Bells showcases everything that made late 80s hard rock so addictive. Driving rhythms, soaring choruses, and guitar work that hits you right in the chest. The band had serious backing from Arista Records and the production quality to match any major act. But they arrived just as MTV was falling in love with flannel shirts and angst. Derek Davis's powerful vocals and the twin guitar attack of Dan De La Rosa and Ron Freschi created magic that deserves so much more than the cultural timing allowed. 3. Winger, 17. Now before you roll your eyes, hear me out on this one. Winger became the poster child for everything grunge was rebelling against, but strip away the hair metal stigma, and 17 is pure songwriting gold. Kip Winger wasn't just another pretty face with big hair. The man was a classically trained musician who understood melody and arrangement in ways that separated Winger from their contemporaries. The bass line alone is more complex than most bands' entire catalogs, and Reb Beach's guitar work weaves through the song like silk. Sure, they got caught up in the backlash against all things 80s, but musical quality doesn't disappear just because fashion changes. 4. Dangerous Toys, Teasin' Pleasin'. From Texas came Dangerous Toys, bringing a grittier edge to the party rock formula that most bands were following. Teasin' Pleasin' had attitude for days, combining southern rock swagger with hard rock punch in a way that felt authentic rather than manufactured. Jason McMaster's vocals had character and grit that cut through the polished veneer of late 80s production, while the band's rhythm section provided a foundation heavier than what most of their peers were laying down. They were signed to Columbia Records and had all the pieces in place, but sometimes great music just gets lost in the noise of an oversaturated market. 5. Badlands, In a Dream.
Let me fall within your arms, melt away.
When Jake E. Lee left Ozzy Osbourne's band, he could have disappeared into obscurity, but instead he formed Badlands and created some of the most soulful hard rock of the era. In a Dream features Ray Gillen's incredible vocals, a voice that could have easily carried him to superstardom if fate had been kinder. The song builds from gentle verses to explosive choruses with the dynamics that most bands struggle to achieve even today. Gillen's tragic early death robbed rock music of one of its most promising voices, but songs like this remind us what we lost and why Badlands deserved a much bigger spotlight. 6. Autograph, Turn Up the Radio. Sometimes a song is so perfectly crafted for its moment that you can't believe it didn't become a permanent fixture in rock history. Autograph's Turn Up the Radio is pure driving music, the kind of anthem that should be pumping out of car stereos forever. Steve Plunkett's vocals capture the spirit of rock and roll rebellion, while the band delivers hook after hook with surgical precision. The song actually did pretty well on the charts, hitting the top 30, but Autograph never managed to follow it up with anything that caught fire the same way. One-hit wonder status doesn't diminish the perfection of this particular 3.5 minutes of rock bliss. 7. Vinnie Vincent, Invasion. Back on the streets.
It's not just talk that I hear.
After his messy departure from Kiss, Vinnie Vincent formed his own band and created music that was simultaneously more technical and more melodic than anything he'd done before. Back on the Streets showcases Robert Fleischman's soaring vocals and Vincent's neoclassical guitar approach in perfect harmony. The song structure is complex without being pretentious, and the production gives every element room to breathe. Vincent's reputation for being difficult to work with probably hurt the band's chances, but purely from a musical standpoint, this song stands tall against anything the era produced. 8. Rat. Lay It Down. Wait, you're thinking, Rat wasn't forgotten, they were huge. True, but Lay It Down often gets overlooked in favor of their bigger hits like Round and Round. This deep cut from their catalog shows the band at their most focused, combining Stephen Pearcy's distinctive vocals with Warren DeMartini's tasteful guitar work in a way that feels effortless. The song has groove, attitude, and melody in perfect balance, proving that Rat's success wasn't just about image and timing. Sometimes the best songs aren't the biggest hits, and this track deserves to be mentioned alongside their classics. 9. Great White. Face the Day. Great White had their moments in the sun, but Face the Day represents the band operating at a level that deserves sustained success, rather than just a few chart appearances. Jack Russell's vocals carry emotional weight that cuts through the typical rock bravado, while Mark Kendall's guitar work provides both power and nuance. The song deals with themes of perseverance and hope that feel genuine rather than calculated, and the musical arrangement supports the lyrical content perfectly. Great White proved they could do more than party anthems, but songs like this got lost in the shuffle of their more commercial material. 10. Tesla, Modern Day Cowboy. Tesla represented everything right about 80s rock: authentic musicianship, honest songwriting, and a sound that felt organic rather than manufactured. Modern Day Cowboy opens their debut album with a statement of intent that promised great things, and the band delivered on that promise throughout their career. Jeff Keith's vocals have character and soul, while the dual guitar attack creates layers of melody and power. Tesla managed to survive the grunge transition better than most of their peers, but this early gem still doesn't get the recognition it deserves as one of the era's finest opening statements. These 10 songs represent just a fraction of the incredible music that got buried under the weight of changing trends and industry politics. The 80s produced more great rock music than any decade before or since, but only a small percentage of it managed to achieve lasting recognition. The bands we've covered today had the talent, the songs, and often the record label support, but timing and luck play huge roles in musical success. Each of these tracks proves that great music doesn't have expiration dates, and maybe it's time we stop letting cultural trends dictate what we consider worth celebrating. Rock music needs its hidden gems to be discovered by new generations who can appreciate them without the baggage of when they were originally released. So here's what I need you to do. Pick 3 of these songs, give them a real listen, and then hit that comment section to tell me which one blew your mind the most. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the music that deserves better. And remember, the best rock and roll has always been about discovering something that speaks to your soul, regardless of when it was made.